Ultron. That's the best
Okay, cool.
I've got.
That's
Okay.
that is sufficient.
Okay.
Okay, and one more music thing here. That'll do, pig. Okay. Okay.
Who wants to
All right,
get
we're
us
good to go.
started?
Ready?
We're good to go. Sorry, that was my bad.
You want to count us in, Zach?
Yeah, we're good to go. In 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Nintendo Dad's After Dark Episode 2. On tonight's episode, we've got our good friends Dave and Ashley from Character Crunch to unpackage Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, Zach, find us some very Avenger-like music, and could you cue it when you find it, sir?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a After Dark episode of Nintendo Dads. After Dark episodes being when we talk about stuff other than Nintendo, just because we want to, and that's how we roll. Cool. So, for those of you, way to give that great intro, Zach. So for
Just
those of you,
rolled off the tongue.
I know, right? It's so elegant.
And true.
This is why. Yeah. So again, thank you. Like Justin said, we have both Dave and Ashley from Character Crunch, and we are here to talk about Avengers Age of Ultron. And of course, like these After Dark episodes usually go, we're a little bit more laid back here. Despite what that amazing music would have you believe, we kind of go for the laid back approach here on these After Dark episodes. So let's kind of go around the table, I think. Of course, we've got Justin. How's it going, Justin?
Good. Zachary.
Thank you. Jesse. Of course, yep.
I think I'm still here.
Okay. Wow. We're off to a rolling start.
Yeah, I'm sure you're still here.
Yeah, awesome. And then, of course, Dave.
How's it going, guys?
By Dave or David?
Either's fine.
I'd like to call you D-Rod.
No, that's not fine.
Would that be
No.
would that be cool?
No.
That's just
Or we can
African.
just call him Teddy Bear.
There you
Ooh.
go.
That's concerning. Let's not go.
Yeah. That's what I'm
That voice, ladies and gentlemen, in the background being Ashley, Dave's fiance.
I am really excited if that's where we're going.
This is going to be awesome. It's going to be like an hour of just busting down Dave.
So tell me about what you were like when you were a child, Dave.
Teddy bear.
Were you hugged enough?
Awesome.
You can
And
listen to
Ashley-
Character Crunch where we talk about Dave and Steve if you want to get me torn down. instead of the roast of the Nintendo dads on me, it's all right.
Right on.
Nice. So, and of course, Ashley is the first female guest on Nintendo Dads, which
Woohoo!
is a great honor. And you know, I think it's important. Justin, when we first kind of came up with the idea for this show, we even said do we really want to just call it Nintendo Dads and literally exclude half of our potential audience?
And I said yes because I'm a jerk that way.
Yeah. Right? And the idea being more that Nintendo Dads is that's who we are, but of course that has nothing to do with our audience. We welcome all of the ladies in the audience as well, and they're equally valued. Which apparently the internet doesn't feel that that's how Joss Whedon feels about women, but we'll get to that. I think
Yeah.
we'll get there.
I saw the montage.
Yeah, it's a little nutty, but we'll get there. I think people need to chill out, just as a spoiler, on my opinion. But
Speaking of
Is that a
spoilers,
spoiler warning? Yeah, speaking of
Yep.
spoilers.
Let's set that up right now, shall we?
yeah, spoiler warning. Obviously, if you have not seen this movie, A, what are you doing? And B, we will spoil this movie. No holds barred, right? Whatever that means. And so we are going to talk about this movie openly, as well as all of the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
As well as TV shows.
as well as TV shows. Although I haven't caught up with Agents of Shield. but I guess we can assume spoil that, right? The whole deal. So
Yeah.
Marvel Cinematic Universe up to this point is spoiler warning.
So if you haven't seen the
Done.
movie yet, hit stop now, and we'll be there when you're ready.
Yeah, we will not accept email about how we ruined or spoiled anything for you.
And not
So
only that,
stop it right now. You have been warned. We're gonna stop for 5 seconds. This is your chance to get out now. You ready? 5, 4,
Iron Man dies.
3, 2, 1. That's it. All right. We are now free.
Okay. So let's talk first of all. Let's talk first of all about just sort of our anticipation going into this, and what this movie needed to accomplish, and sort of what our sort of anticipation level was going in. Dave, let's start with you. What do you think? What was your sort of, how were you feeling about this before we went into the movie?
The hype was too real. It was definitely overhyped in every single way. Not to mention that Joss Whedon concerned us all by saying he didn't like managing this many characters. He said it in an interview, and that concerned me, right? But then we got like Daredevil, okay? And it was incredible. And then we also got the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right before the movie. And the hype train just was like rolling. I saw the end of that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode,
3
which
times.
I watched it 3 times because it leads right into Avengers. And I was like, okay, this is going to be the greatest movie ever of all time, period. And the story. So I was probably way too excited for this movie.
So you were super excited. Okay. How about you, Ashley? What about you? How are you feeling? How were you feeling going into this? Hello?
Hello, Ashley?
Did we lose her? Okay, we'll come back to Ashley. Justin, what about you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to go into it. I didn't anticipate I'd see it as soon as I did, so I was a little bit kind of like, oh, I'll wait for the hype to go down a bit. But I think what I did notice, and this goes a little bit back to Dave's point, I noticed the machine working this time. Like, I noticed the hype machine, I noticed the advertising, like the tie-in for Subway, and Gillette putting out special Avengers shaving, like razors and stuff. And I was like, that feels a bit much.
It definitely felt like the machine was at work, eh?
Yeah, it did. It felt like the corporate machine was at work. I was excited for it. But I also, I'll be very honest going into the movie, I felt like from watching the 2 trailers I had seen, I felt like I was able to string together the plot points and exactly what they were going to do pretty much before I walked in the movie.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I had seen like a super cut of like there was somebody who had taken all of the footage from the trailers and basically spliced it all together into what they assumed would be the plot. And looking at it now, yeah, it pretty much like you got the whole plot from that movie. I mean, there were details that weren't there, like the whole Vision piece wasn't there, and like the meteor piece, like the specifics weren't there. There were a couple of surprises, but it was nowhere near as I think the pieces that they held back, it was like, oh, okay, like that's how you pulled that off then. Okay, that's fine. But it didn't really have any impact on the story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely the marketing in general, I think, was pretty high going into this. Jesse, how are you feeling going in too?
I wasn't quite as hype as Dave because I'm not a fan of the TV show, but I was excited for it. I get excited about all the Marvel movies, and I watch I also watch the Marvel cartoons. They have Agents of Smash. They have an Avengers, and they have a Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon that's kind of in limbo right now. But they just started up another season of the Avengers cartoon that, of course, has Ultron as its main arc's villain. So kind of a non-tie-in to the movie.
Right. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like this movie in general, going into it, the hype was high and everything, and coming into it, like I've seen it now 3 times. How much has everybody else seen it? Like Justin, you said you've seen it once. Jesse, you've seen it once.
I've seen it once, and I have pre-ordered tickets to see it again this weekend with the kids.
Okay, cool.
The kids haven't seen it yet.
Dave, Ashley, do we have you back? Not yet.
No,
I don't think so.
Okay, we're working on it, I think. Okay. If we can get her back, I am actually interested in getting her opinion on a bunch of that stuff going on, the controversy stuff. But how do we feel like after the movie? I know I personally, it's interesting because these movies, like there was so much lead up. Like we had Avengers, like phase 1 was everybody, all of the Avengers spread, not spread. All of the Avengers individually are kind of being introduced, and then you've got the first Avengers, which is like this amazing, we're going to bring all these superheroes from these movies and bring them into one movie. And honestly, I felt in the first Avengers movie, it was like, yeah, like it was a fun popcorn flick, but I kind of I've always loved superhero movies, especially the Marvel movies, more for those cool. It's not for the the amazing action and stuff like that, although that is really enjoyable. What I love is to see these extraordinary people and to make them human again, and really humanize these heroes, and really get those cool character moments. So the first Avengers, you don't really get much of that. Like I've said before, every single character kind of felt like a caricaturized version of themselves in the first Avengers movie. And then, phase 2, they break apart and they all go and do their own little adventures again, and you do a little bit of character exploring for each of the characters. And then the interesting thing with this next Avengers is I feel like it had a different mission this time, right? I honestly, at the end of it, I don't really know what the end result was. I think part of it was it was going to give us more character moments for the characters that we otherwise wouldn't have gotten to know very well, like Hawkeye. I loved Hawkeye's story in this, the sort of arc, the sort of fleshing out that he has, with his family and things like that. And the Black Widow Hulk thing, to a lesser extent, I think was pretty awesome. And then just introducing a bunch of new characters.
Yeah, I felt like this movie, first and foremost, I would say hits the ground running, right? Like we kick off right in the middle of an action scene. And interesting enough, like as it begins, I felt like at times I was like, and I know so much of it, and I know Dave kind of talks a little bit about this as well, is tied into to the Marvel cinematic universe through television as well, or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I felt like I haven't seen the most recent couple episodes of Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I felt like, maybe I missed something that I should have seen prior to coming into this. But I felt like, they hit the ground running. They've established their big characters, right? The Avengers. They understand that the standalone Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, and Hawkeye haven't had their own individual standalone shows to build more of their characters. So they spend a little bit more time with them, which is great. But what I really felt this movie did, and I'm going to borrow this a little bit from the Kind of Funny guys, is I felt like this was a trailer for phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Totally. Yeah.
Is Ashley back, I think, guys?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
Ashley's
awesome.
back.
Okay,
Ashley, we missed you.
And I missed everything because I was helping.
That's okay. There wasn't a lot. Really, it was
Okay.
just Zach just
kind of mumbling. Kind of monologuing for a while.
Nice.
So Ashley, what about you? What are you? What were your thoughts kind of going into this movie, and what you felt like it needed to, how to meet your expectations? What were you looking for?
Well, Dave already knows, but you guys don't. I was super freaking excited. I was doing a countdown. I requested off of work. Like, I was so excited. I absolutely loved Avengers 1, and it was just the most amazing thing ever. And we watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I made him watch it 3 times, with Raina and her predictions and everything. Like, I was just so excited. And I had to work the day of, and then I was too excited to go to sleep and take a nap. So when I went in seeing it the first time, I was kind of tired, but I stayed awake the whole time. And at the end, I was really super disappointed. In my opinion, it just wasn't what I was expecting. So we went again yesterday, and we saw it yesterday again, but this time in 3D. And I liked it more, but I I hated the farm. I
Mm.
hated Hawkeye's backstory.
Really?
I hated it. And the love story between the Hulk, it's just like, I love the Hulk, so maybe I was jealous. I don't know exactly what it is, but I didn't like that. It's like, I like seeing the Hulk smashed and being mad and breaking everything, and seeing him like in love and stuff. I didn't like that.
Okay, so you kind of missed our discussion before, but I part of the reason why I really love the solo Marvel movies is because what we're doing is we're taking a character who is this extraordinary superhero and we're bringing them down to earth and humanizing them. And that's why I honestly felt like, well, 95% of the people that I've heard on the internet or whatever, when the first Avengers movie came out, they were like, oh, it's the best thing I've ever seen before. And I was just kind of like, yeah, but they were all caricatures of themselves. We never got any really good character moments in the first one. It was just
Me, Thor, I have hammer. Speak
Right,
like
and,
Shakespeare.
right. And so like that, as far as that went, like it was fun, but it was not, I wasn't a super huge fan of it. And whereas some of my favorite moments in Age of Ultron were the farm and again, to a lesser extent, the Hulk Black Widow romance sort of thing, where he's like getting out of the shower and whatever, and that whole sort of back and forth I felt didn't really work as well, but I loved that. And maybe it's because like me and Hawkeye were like the same, right? It's like he's got this wife and 2 kids and he just is like,
Maybe it was lacking, in my opinion. I felt like maybe we needed more. I think it was maybe too short. I don't know. It was just, I knew that was the scene that was just bothering me. That's the reason why I originally didn't like it. It's just, it was missing something. As Dave was saying, maybe there will be more in the director's cut. But in my opinion, it was either take it out or add more. I don't think there was enough.
So I think here's the challenge that we live in. With especially this movie and its placement, we live in a world post Daredevil, where we have 13 hours to soak in a character and know more and more about that character. And I mean the basic, to Zach's point, we have spent 6 hours with Iron Man. We've spent 4 hours with Captain America. Right? We've done these things. That have built those bases, but these secondary characters, Black Widow and Hawkeye, we haven't had that time to soak in that character depth and understand what motivates them more so. So to your point, actually, like that feels forced, right? It feels contrived of like, okay, we've got 3 minutes to make a really great relationship and make you feel bad for Hawkeye because we might kill him. Maybe, but we won't. But we're going to make you think this way.
But I liked the ending with Black Widow, finding out about her and stuff. Like, I liked that.
Yeah.
Like, I liked her explaining.
For sure. Somebody's got some wicked background fuzzing.
Yeah, I'm hearing that.
Oh, sorry. Let me.
Who was that?
Disappeared, whoever that was. Okay.
Ashley, is your mic down all the way?
Looks like
Yes.
we have a new person on the call.
Yeah.
What it?
Yeah,
You're the
who's-
dude that I ran into at Tri-C?
What's going on?
I have no idea.
I don't. Hello?
Somebody like hijacking our call?
Apparently.
Ashley, you still there?
Actually dropped again.
Oh.
Zachary Kirby. Who is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, you added me here. You met me at school like a month ago, and then you added me in here.
Oh. Well, we're sorry. We definitely don't want that. We're gonna hang up on you. How's that sound?
Oh,
We will.
It's not you. It's us.
I understand. You just accidentally added me to your call, and I was like, oh man, a call, but I.
All right, I removed him.
All right, good.
Wow.
Do you want to try and get Ashley back in?
Ashley, try to join the call again.
How the heck did that happen? I'm gonna actually.
So again, we live in this world
I think that
Anybody can join a Skype call.
where anyone can join in. But I would agree. I think with Ashley's point that that's the challenge, right? Is some of those things that they didn't get the time to spend was in the other movies or in the first Avengers gets forced into some of this so that we build these relationships.
You know what's really interesting is I saw a. I'm going to write down a timestamp because I actually am going to.
Just shy of the 20-minute mark.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I read an interview and Joss Whedon, since his movie has come out, I think it's becoming very clear that there were some serious issues between Marvel and Joss Whedon on exactly how this movie needed to unfold and how it went down.
Before
So
we go
basically
there, I wanted to throw something else about the farm.
Okay, well, this is about the farm too, but go ahead.
Okay, that whole farm scene seemed like I've seen it somewhere else before, where a team of heroes gets their clock cleaned. They go to this unknown farm to kind of recollect themselves and re-prepare, and they go back into battle. Does this sound familiar to you?
1991, the original Ninja Turtles.
Yep.
Gosh, dude. Holy cow. Yes.
Boom! After Raphael got his ass kicked.
I was thinking The Walking Dead, but I think you're way on. Yeah.
Yeah, it had a big Turtles vibe to me. You know,
Yeah, totally.
It happened in the comics, then it's happened in the most recent Turtles cartoon as well.
And, you know, it's interesting because at this interview with Joss Whedon, basically he was saying how he really wanted this farm scene stuff in. He also wanted more character moments with Quicksilver, where they kind of show him as more of a ladies' man and so on. And so, like, Quicksilver in his original sort of vision of it, he was a lot more of a kind of a deplorable sort of annoying character that by the time he ends up being saving Hawkeye's life, Hawkeye freaking hates this guy by the time he saves his life. So that's earned a little bit more. But basically what happened is they eventually ended up butting heads to the point where it was
Still here, yep.
Where basically what happened was, it was, okay, listen, if you want to have these farm scenes, then you've got to give us the Cave of Exposition scenes that are going to lead up into Phase 3. Joss Whedon didn't want any of those weird cave scenes, which I think were about the most shoehorned part of the entire movie, frankly, and kind of forced storytelling in general, talking about the Infinity Stones and all that kind of stuff. But that's basically what happened, was he wanted a lot more of the character development, and what happened was somewhere in the middle, neither of those ideas I feel got pulled off as well as they could have been pulled off. So I don't know, it's interesting. It's definitely this weird balance though, right, where you're balancing these cool character development moments, but also trying to get it, introducing how many new characters, plus the Vision, plus develop Ultron, plus have even more better action scenes than ever before as well. And so I don't know, it's kind of crazy. I'm definitely looking forward to the director's cut, because there are several moments where I feel like it didn't it felt rushed. I was looking forward to a longer movie than we ended up getting. I feel like it should have been longer, given the amount of stuff they needed to.
And it was still a long movie.
Yeah.
It was almost 2.5 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was proud of myself. I didn't have to use the restroom in the middle.
It's funny though, because when I took my son to see this movie, like as soon as they got to the farm, he was like, "Dad, I have to go pee." I was like, "Good timing, boy, because we got like 10 minutes to spare. Let's go. Take as long as you need." So yeah, I don't know. How did you guys feel about the new characters, like Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch? Let's start with them. Ashley,
Underutilized.
Underutilized? Okay.
I think they had an opportunity to use them way more than they did. I feel like they slapped them in there for nothing. But they told us approximately like 5 things about their backstory. Mm-hmm. That they got attacked by Stark. Okay. Mm-hmm. And now they hate Stark, and now they're working for Ultron. I'm still not really sure how they came upon Ultron, even though I've seen it twice. They just kind of joined him.
Oh yeah, no, it seemed like, and that there's a lot of stuff in this movie where stuff is happening behind the scenes, right? Like literally, they just kind of walk up to the church, and you're to assume that Ultron has summoned them there somehow, right? I don't know, but basically somebody has summoned them there, or like the entire death with Strucker, right? Where he's like, this whole time we're thinking, oh man, Strucker's the head of Hydra and he's this big deal, and then they kill him off screen and make some joke about how he's surrendering and that's it, and like, but yeah. So you feel they were underutilized, right? Okay. Ashley, what about you? How do you feel about him?
Ashley's gone
He's gone again. Okay.
because she can't join the call because every time I hit add to call, she can't be added.
Oh, that's
Oh, let me see if I can add her.
Yeah, that would be great if somebody else can try to add her.
You want to just
Okay,
put her handle in the messaging here, and I'll add her.
cool.
I think she got it. Ashley, come in here for a second.
This is Ultron.
This is Skype Ultron problems.
Jeez.
Hi.
There she is.
She's back.
People
Anybody
keep
else?
deleting me.
Anybody else can add her except me. So.
Cool. So
Hey,
yeah. So Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Ashley, how do you feel about them in the movie?
So I didn't like that he died. I don't understand why he had to die in the comics. You know, he's there, and then he's in the other. What movies are they in? They're in the mutant movies. Those are the X-Men. Yeah, X-Men. So I was really confused because I remember the people being in the X-Men movies, and then all of a sudden they were in the Avengers. So I didn't understand that. But
Yeah, that's that weird sort of lawyery thing where because they were in both in the comics, they're technically mutants in the comics. Although, by the way, they are apparently retconning that, and Magneto's not really their dad anymore. I don't know why. Probably because Fox has the rights, and so therefore
Yeah.
Marvel's like, oh, guess what? They're not actually mutants, or they're not actually Magneto's kids.
they're enhanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the Avengers movies they are, but I'm saying even in the comic books, Marvel is retconning their origin story currently.
Oh,
So,
really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
So that's yeah. I found
The
that out.
MCU is king.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, you'll notice that even though Marvel, Fantastic Four and X-Men are Marvel, they are not featured in any real way in the comic books, in any of the there's no X-Men cartoons or Fantastic Four cartoons. Like they are pushing their own
because
product.
comics don't make $180 million in a weekend.
Yeah. So basically, though, I mean, it's yeah, for sure. So I feel like they were definitely weird, but I don't know. I really liked them, and again, going back to that idea of this huge ensemble, trying to introduce new characters is a pretty challenging thing, and I think they're going to rely on future movies to flesh out the characters that made it through alive. Like Vision, I thought was, as far as like an origin story, he was awesome. You have no idea who he is though. Like there's no real character development there. It's like, I am Jarvis, but I'm not Jarvis, and I'm not Ultron. And I love the moment of him holding the hammer though. Like it's just like that sort of visual and how they hang on that. You're like, this is all you need to know about this guy.
The reaction
right?
of the crowd.
He can hold hammer, just like.
So I saw it at a 9 p.m. move theater. So this is the second showing of the theater while that started before the first showing ended. So no one's had a chance to talk to anyone yet. So when the reaction of the crowd when Vision picked up the hammer was identical to the characters' reaction to it. They're like, "What?"
Yeah. And I love how they just hang on that. A good like 5 seconds where everyone's just like.
And I did like how they spent time at the party, kind of.
I love that hammer scene.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of making it like a King Arthur or Excalibur type of thing.
Yeah, and when Captain America picked, like, he just slightly moved it, and Thor, like, shit his pants almost. He's like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so good. I really like that. Cool. So
Do we want to talk about Thor?
Oh,
While we're on the hammer and being worthy and all this nonsense, do we want to talk about this?
the Cave of Exposition, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Do we want to talk about this?
Yeah, go for it.
Why? Why did we have to spend his entirety of his character setting up Ragnarok? Because it just does it.
But like all of all of the of Infinity War, right?
Well, that yeah, and it looks like that movie's gonna lead right into Infinity War, or at least be a huge piece of it. But I mean, like, does anybody like really consistently read Thor? Like, does anybody? Because like I read some of the like the start of the Marvel Now stuff, and I was like, this is cool, but once again, it's like this weird God story that it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't attach to me. And then
I haven't.
go ahead, Zach.
I really like if people want to read some really cool comic stuff, some good exploration of Thor in the real world. That sounds like a bad reality show, but that's not what I mean.
Thor in the real world.
Go and read the original, the first couple of volumes, I guess, really, of the Ultimates, which was a comic done. It's like the beginning of the Ultimate Universe in the comics, where basically it's if the Avengers were created in actual current like modern day, and they do it like this whole sort of government thing. And Thor, the way that they treat Thor is really cool because they never really answer the question of like, is he or is he not this Asgardian, and they never really prove it. And a lot of people just think he's crazy and he's this hippie who's like summoning lightning to attack like oil ships for Greenpeace and stuff like that.
Kind of like the take on Thor from the old Lou Ferrigno show.
I haven't seen that, but it's possible.
What I remember is he was kind of a drunk hippie, and this kind of he thought he was Thor, and somehow actually ended up being it. It was weird.
I think really the whole Thor storyline in this movie, though, is this sort of is the perfect example of this sort of snowballing effect that's happening with the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they really need to be careful with, which is not since Iron Man 2 has a movie been made, with so much, kind of like what you were saying, Justin, where it's basically a trailer for upcoming movies, right? Like Iron Man 2 was a trailer for Avengers, right? Like there was so much of that movie that was, look, it's more S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's Black Widow and those sorts of things. And that was the biggest criticism against that movie. You would never think that the crowning jewel of Phase 2, which is Age of Ultron, is now, basically leading towards Phase 3 and focusing more on that.
We needed more Happy Hogan. That's the problem.
There you go. We needed more Happy Hogan. Is that, like, do you feel like is that how you're feeling about it, Dave?
Yeah, no, Thor became this setup character for this thing that, to be honest, I'm confused about. And there was the guy in the party like yelling, "You're gonna open the gates to hell," and I'm like, what is this guy talking about? And Thor like gets to the farm and he's like, "I'm leaving. I need to go find stuff."
So have
you
seen
okay.
Thor the Dark? That's another thing, is that so many, like a lot of these movies do really well at standing alone. Like Captain America, the Winter Soldier, you don't have to see any of the other movies, that came before it to really get Winter Soldier. They tell you enough to understand it. But Age of Ultron especially, if you haven't seen all of these movies and seen them recently, it's kind of hard to pick up on exactly what's going on.
I watched Thor Dark World twice. I watched it once in theaters, and then I watched it one more time to confirm that I realized that Malekith, whose name I can never remember, is evil and dumb, and it's awful. Like, that movie is fun, Loki's fun, his Captain America thing is fun, but, like, that movie doesn't hold any importance to me. Like, it's not Guardians of the Galaxy.
Sure. And I think part of it, again, is that when these movies get things really right, it's a really good mesh between a cinematic sort of writing and the comic book flair to it. But when they go wrong, it becomes overly comic booky to the point where it's just like, it's all about the fighting at the end, and it doesn't really matter what happened as long as you know that there was fighting and the bad guys lost, right?
Right.
It's kind of how the sort of comic book model of storytelling works. And yeah, you'll have a few good character moments, but really it's all about the fighting and getting to the cool stuff.
So Thor goes to a cave and gets in some water and continues his vision of whatever, and then gets pushed aside is not. I don't know. He's off doing his own thing in this movie, and it's weird because he should be doing Avenger things with them.
Right? And so basically, what he sees is a vision of what's coming in later movies. So I mean, he has that scene where the different Infinity Stones are all coming together, and they're all kind of there, and they has this cloud that's shaped like a glove, which is referencing the Infinity Gauntlet, which is the glove that Thanos wears at the end of the movie, at the end of that post-credit scene, right? The idea being that he's going to get all the Infinity Stones, put it in the Infinity Gauntlet, and then he's going to come and we're going to have such a terrible time with him that it's going to take 2 movies to deal with him, right? Is basically what's going to happen there. And so we've seen the 4 Infinity Stones. We've seen the Tesseract, which was the cube in Captain America 1 and Avengers.
Ether in Thor: Dark World.
Yeah, the orb from Guardians, and then the Mind Stone, which is now residing in Vision's forehead, right? That used to be in the scepter.
Right.
So basically what that means is we've got 2 stones left that between now and the climax of what I'm assuming is like the first Avengers, the Infinity War, those other 2 stones have to be taken care of.
That's 2017 or 2018?
2018.
18.
So the movies between now and then are So we have Ant-Man next, which they're not going to touch the Infinity Stones in Ant-Man, right? They're not even going to touch that. Then we have Captain America: Civil War, which I'm really, honestly, after seeing this movie, and it may sound like I didn't like this movie, but I actually really liked it a lot. I'll watch over and over and over again. That's just how I roll with Marvel movies.
Yeah.
But I don't want another. Next Civil War is going to be Avengers 3. I hate to tell you, that's Avengers 3. We're getting another Avengers movie next year.
Yeah.
And then the second half of next year, we've got Doctor Strange. Then what? What do we have after that?
Guardians 2 in May of 17.
Guardians
2 and Spider-Man, I think, or the year after that.
Yep. Guardians.
Yeah, I found an article. We had Guardians 2 in May of 17, then the Spectacular Spider-Man, July of 17.
Wait, they're calling it Spectacular Spider-Man?
That's what this article says.
I don't think that's confirmed if that's actually what. I don't know if that's
Oh no.
It says, please keep in mind the title is listed as only an early report.
Okay.
A lot can
I was about to say. I'm like, okay, so when do we get Ultimate Spider-Man reboot number 4? Let's go.
Yeah, so we've got Guardians in May, Spider-Man in July, Thor Ragnarok in November, and then Avengers: Infinity War Part 1 in May 2018.
So Civil War, I bet we get an Infinity Stone.
I'm going to say, when is Doctor Strange? Oh, Doctor Strange. I'm going to say Doctor Strange, and it's going to be like the Eye of Agamotto or whatever it is actually going to have an Infinity Stone in it or something.
Okay, that can work. Or and then we assume that I bet one of them will be in Avengers 3.
Yeah, that would
like
be
the last one will be in that movie.
They'll basically pull basically the scene at the beginning of the movie will be similar to like in Age of Ultron where they're going and fighting. It'll be like some action scene and Thor or Thanos is like beating up on everybody and he's got some of them already. And basically part 1 I feel like is going to be leading up to him getting all of them, and then some sort of cliffhanger and whatever. He's got all of the stones, and the second part will actually be them fighting.
How far are those 2 parts away from each other?
A year. They're May 18 and May 19.
In
Is
fact,
there anything
in those 2? We have
Is
Black
there-
Panther and Captain Marvel.
in between?
Yeah.
That's gonna be super weird.
Not only that, but apparently they've said that those movies are going to be like Part 1 and Part 2 are standalone-ish. Like they will definitely be 2 parts, but they'll be like 2 standalone movies as well. I don't know how they pull that off, but
See, I was surprised when they mentioned Wakanda that they didn't make any mention of T'Challa.
well, I mean, really,
Unless I missed it.
Wakanda, but they never even went to Wakanda, right? They were like in some offshore place.
Right, but they someone else stole it from them, Wakanda, and then someone else comes in to steal it from them. But still, this was a chance to at least mention the Black Panther or T'Challa or something.
I think I honestly feel like they had so many other pieces going in this movie that mention it, like name dropping Wakanda and having Ulysses Claw in the movie, right? Which, by the way, Gollum, great work, Gollum. You were awesome in this movie. I thought he was great. As a little like throwaway part, but I feel like we'll see him back in Black Panther.
Because when they mentioned Wakanda, I saw a few the people watching the movie ears perk up, like mine, because like, oh, I know what's happening there, and half the crowd had no idea.
Ashley, I'm going to ask you this because, I mean, I never shut up about these movies, and I tell you all the like little hidden comic book things and the things that are coming ahead. Do you follow it when you've never read these comics? You barely know who Thanos is, because I said who's Thanos, and you said, is that the big blue guy at the end? How are you following this up to now with all these movies that I force you to watch?
Don't force me. I really don't understand completely, to be honest. You talk and I just kind of listen, but then I kind of not really listen.
I think
so
that's probably about what my wife does too. Totally.
It's like I listen to bits and pieces.
Here's the thing, though, is that is totally up to Marvel, though, right? Like, I feel like Marvel is almost getting a little bit lazy with, like, okay, like, you need to explain this stuff a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Justin, you going to say something?
Yeah, just when you're talking about kind of engaging, let's say our wives or our girlfriends to do this, I may or may not have told my wife that there was a scene in this movie where Captain America took his shirt off to incentivize her to come and see the movie. I had heard rumor of it, so I was like, yeah, you know what? He takes his shirt off, so that might be good. And she was like, yeah, all right, I think we can go see that movie.
You know what, though?
Then she was very disappointed that his shirt did not come off.
Thor's does, but he's in the water.
Yeah,
and like
she doesn't
Harry
care much
Bruce
for him,
Banner,
more Captain
man.
America.
Harry Bruce Banner, like, come on. How can you say no to that?
She gets that at home.
Every day, yeah. No,
I mean, this is a serious, I think, problem coming up ahead. And I getting a drink in the movie theater the second time we watched it, and I was out there, and the guy next to me at the other drink thing was like, I was like, "What'd you see?" And he's like, "Avengers." I'm like, "First or second time?" He's like, "First. Why would I see it a second time?" I go, "Trust me, you're gonna want to see it a second time." And he's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Maybe these." I get the people who are like at the midnight premiere, like the guy that was at Guardians who was dressed up as Star-Lord. Like I know those people are following this, but it's like, is Marvel doing the people who aren't reading every comic, or at least like know the concept of the comics? Like, are they doing them justice?
I don't think so.
At this point, I felt like there were too many missing pieces for people who weren't following. I mean, who've never read these comics or don't know these stories.
I
not
agree.
to say that I didn't. Not to say that I didn't love the movie, because I did.
That's the thing, is that I loved the movie. I think it was great, but if they want this to continue to be the success that it is, or that it has been up till this point, they need to tighten up a little bit. They need to get back to what is making these movies great. I'm actually still really excited about Ant-Man. I don't know, like, I know, Justin, you're saying I'm crazy about being excited for Ant-Man.
Yes, I am.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it simply because it is something that is so entirely different from anything else, that I feel like it's something that could potentially show us something new. Although at the same time, I think it looks generic as hell. Right?
Ashley, tell them your opinion of the trailers, the 3 that they showed us, which were Fantastic Four, Ant-Man, and Star Wars.
So the only two that I actually liked, the Star Wars, I started flipping out, yelling,
Which
that I wanted to see the Star Wars one.
she hadn't seen that trailer outside of the movie theater, which was pretty incredible to see that
Oh,
trailer.
wow. That would be awesome.
For
So
the
I'm
first
sitting
time.
there yesterday on May 4th going, Dave, we have to see this. Dave. And I'm smacking him going, Dave, I have to see this.
Like we're not seeing Star Wars.
And then the Fantastic Four, I remember glimpses and pieces of the old Fantastic Four movie, and from what I can remember, I remembered that I liked it. And so I'm kind of excited about the new one. But the Ant-Man, I'm watching this and I'm going, this looks stupid.
It looks like the first Iron Man movie, but with a suit that makes you small instead of.
Exactly. And it was just like a bumblebee and a man that's ants, and it didn't
Not a
catch my
bumblebee, it's
attention.
a yellow jacket.
It's a yellow jacket, damn it.
No,
it
I
just
totally
it didn't
see.
get my attention. I was just like, Dave's like, oh, and he's been talking about Ant-Man for weeks and weeks, and he watches all these trailers beforehand, and I'm just kind of like, oh yeah. He goes, watch this, and I kind of just stare at the wall while he plays it, and I'm just like, I don't really care. And when I watched it in the theater, I was just like, I really don't think I'm gonna like it. He goes, well, you have to go see it anyways, so I'll go and see it. But I don't know if I'm not. Normally, when he tells me to watch something and I go to see it and I'm not excited, I normally like it. So I possibly might like it. But as of right now, I'm not like, oh yeah, we're going midnight release.
What?
Yeah, I'm
not going midnight for Ant-Man. Oh, I'm not going
I
midnight.
will definitely be going midnight for
I
Ant-Man.
probably
That's just
will
me.
too.
Don't say that, then they're going to make me. It's going to be like peer pressure. And I'm going to have to go.
Dave, I'm not doing it.
I am not under any sort of. I'm not under any sort of, sort of like delusion that I'm not a complete fanboy when it comes to this kind of stuff. I literally.
Oh, well, I am too, but
a few times a year, and I have been to like the opening night of every single Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Yeah.
I think you made an interesting point though, because you said it's the Iron Man thing again.
Yeah,
and remember how like we were all like Iron Man will be all right. Like let's go. Why not? And that movie ended up being amazing.
Yeah. So who knows, right? Like I kind of am.
Same with Guardians. A lot of people weren't sure how well that would turn out.
Guardians was my like test, and
Guardians was amazing.
It was,
and I was like, if they can pull this off and make a good movie out of these characters, I know absolutely nothing about at all. Mm-hmm. I'm convinced they can make anything, but this Ant-Man makes me nervous again because hasn't they have 3 directors? People keep leaving that set like off, like they kept leaving it, and people were up and out of there. Like
it had Edgar Wright, who was responsible for pretty much all of the pre-production on that movie until the very end. And honestly, what it sounds like is that they probably had pretty similar problems to what they had with Joss Whedon. With Joss Whedon was basically creative differences there. The difference being that Joss Whedon was basically already like deep into it, and he had already done the first Avengers, and so he probably felt more committed to the project, whereas Edgar Wright was like, look man, like I'm out. If you're not going to let me do this movie the way I want to do it, I'm out. And Marvel is very clearly very involved in the creation of these movies, and if you don't
and the
have
TV
right
shows,
back-
they steer these.
Oh,
What do
yeah.
they like? I mean, that's why Ben Urich died in Daredevil. Spoiler for Daredevil, people. They said to do that. That wasn't like a decision on the Daredevil team. They're like, no, this needs to happen.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of I don't know. I feel like when it goes well, then you get movies like Guardians of the Galaxy or Captain America: The Winter Soldier. But the director needs to be coming into into that movie, being willing to work with Marvel on it and work as a team with Marvel, because then you get great movies like Captain America or Guardians. Whereas if not, then you get things like Age of Ultron or potentially, it ends up feeling like it was made by assembly line and by, basically by the Ultron of Disney, Marvel, Inc., whatever, right? Where it feels, again, kind of going back to what you said at the very beginning, Justin, where the machine was going. The marketing machine was running the entire build up to this movie, and I felt like that machine kept running through the whole movie, and it was marketing, like the whole movie was marketing Phase 3 and all of the toys and all of whatever, right? And it felt like it was so much more marketing than any other Marvel movie to date.
Speaking of kind of the machine and Ultron,
I was gonna take the same time.
Same segue. James Spader as Ultron. That's what this show did not have enough of. I think he did a fantastic job.
Oh yeah.
As a villain, and I think for anyone who's kind of watching something like The Blacklist, where you see him in this protagonist antagonist view, some of that character traits of who he is as an actor pulls over, and I think that the design team, even from those first trailers when we saw him come out and do the there are no more strings on me. Now, if we're in post right now, Zach should add that.
I ain't doing that business.
Yeah. Bang on job. And I think what he does is he delivers a character that is just so like it's not like haha I'm just taking over the world. Like there's a sense of humor to his character in some ways. There is a intelligence.
There's a sense of tragedy too, where where Black Widow is by the way, we still need to get into the whole Black Widow thing in a minute here, but talking about where she wakes up and he's like, oh, I was hoping you'd wake up, I don't have anybody else, like, and he wanted to share his creation with her, because like you really get the sense that he feels betrayed by the twins after they turn on him, and so he like doesn't have anybody, and it's this really interesting sort of character where you think of in the comics, Ultron is like this it is logical to destroy humankind, right? And just
that's what I was thinking. He seemed very almost empathetic at sometimes.
Yeah, right.
That seemed weird to me.
And he has this sort of thing as well, where he's in that same scene where he's talking to Black Widow, where it's like talking about how they had taken his body, who becomes the Vision, right? And he's like, you have taken this from me, and people would have looked up to the skies and seen hope, and now they're going to see terror and whatever. Like he wanted people to see him as this sort of beacon of hope, because that's his purpose. But then it turns out that in the end he really was just going to kill everybody anyways.
He ate the scenery.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like for a person who was a voice of a character who was probably very rarely on set, they probably did some mocaps of his face for his facial expressions.
He was actually on set for the majority of filming.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah,
because
they mocapped his face, and they had like a big old.
Am I getting dropped? Everyone else froze.
That went
more of him.
I think we're gonna see more of him in other future Marvel movies. Infinity War, people, this is what the internet thinks, but I kind of agree, is we're gonna see all the villains again. Hopefully nothing of Malekith, but that's my opinion.
I think, well, I mean, if you were to take that, I did see a sort of, looking at like the Marvel Studios Reddit, which I tend to go to every once in a while, there was a theory I saw of like, where the Vision is like, I don't want to destroy Ultron. He's wonderful or whatever, right? Like he's unique, and so I don't want to destroy him. And then, when Vision destroys the last Ultron, it just shows a flash, but you never actually see what happens. And some people are like, well, he uploaded his Ultron's consciousness into the Mind Stone or something. I don't know. It's possible. I think that is hard enough to sell. I would love to see the Red Skull again. I mean, he basically just got like rainbow bridged into space at the end of the first Avenger, right? So I'd love to see him again. But
yeah, no, he should come back too, because he could be really interesting and I don't think ever got fleshed out enough in Captain America 1 as a character. So,
Yeah.
Ashley, what did you think of Ultron?
Huh?
What did you think of Ultron?
The evil thing in the movie?
Yes.
Yes, the evil robot.
Oh, I thought he was really
James Spader.
not the Josh guy.
James Spader, Ultron, the robot.
Oh, sorry, I was on Facebook. No, he was really creepy. Um, sorry. 1 second. Ow. Cat. Okay, sorry. Cat was on my back. They like to jump on us, and yeah. No, I really liked him, but I don't know.
They didn't really give him enough time though. Eh? Like to your point, I feel like he was cool. Like he ate up the scenery. One scene in particular, kind of going back to when they killed Strucker off screen, right? Where it's like, oh, they killed him. I would have loved to see. I would have loved to have seen the interaction between Ultron and Strucker, and like, what is the motivation? Why did they have all this lead up to the leader of Hydra, where they even hint in the movie that Hydra, has the scepter there, and they have, some prototype Ultron, robots or whatever there, and so they were clearly like almost there for creating Ultron themselves, and creating this AI. What is it about like Ultron that feels like he needs to go and kill him? Like that sort of interaction there on the motivations would have been a really interesting scene as well. I think
Tie-ins with Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's why that was there.
Right.
I'm calling it now. I mean, that's the reason for bringing in Hydra.
That is a crappy reason, though. Like,
Yeah,
honestly,
it's completely written for convenience.
It's terrible because these movies need to stand. Like, if you want to have the TV shows go into the movie, that's fine. But these movies need to stand on their own, right? Like, they cannot say, "Oh, don't worry, you can go and watch this TV show, or you can go and read the prequel comics or whatever." Like, no, don't give me that crap because I gotta.
Baron von Struck it was the evil big bad in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. currently. He was the big Hydra guy we've been trying to take down for most of season 2.
Right.
The reason he was there, and the reason they were attacking that base in the very beginning of this movie was just to tie it all together.
Right, but the thing is that the end credits scene of Captain America: The Winter Soldier basically put him in that position to begin with, and so they needed to put that there anyways. If they don't want to put it at the end of Captain America, that's fine, right? But if they're going to put him and set him up as the next big bad at the end of Captain America, the next big bad in the movies, then that's what that end credit scene did, was they set him up as the next big bad for the movies, and then they just show him for 2 seconds and kill him off screen. It's like, oh, okay, well then why did you do that? It just felt cheap. They shouldn't have done it at all if that's how they were going to do it. That's my take anyway. So I get it though. Like
I don't think he should have been in there, honestly. But that's one of my problems with, like, I feel like maybe he was meant to be fleshed out more in this movie. It's one of those things where I feel like there might be more there missing.
Yeah.
Although I'm very curious as to where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going, because that was what we were doing.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'll see tomorrow. But you're right. These movies need to stand on their own, and I don't think this one does.
It doesn't.
I think that might be where this all goes wrong, is because everything, even Tony's vision after he gets, controlled by Scarlet Witch, is like really, really attacking on what happened in Iron Man 3 again, which was him dealing with, he went through that wormhole and saw those aliens, and he didn't feel like he could save everybody, and it was doomed.
Yeah. So, cool. Okay, so I have one more thing. Does anybody else have anything to weigh in real quick before? Justin, Jesse, anybody? Okay. So basically my last sort of thought here is recently, Joss Whedon has quit Twitter because of fan backlash over the the anti-feminist sort of approach that he has taken to Black Widow in this movie. Where she has become a damsel in distress in the movie, right? Where she has to be rescued. I saw criticisms of him, basically equating being sterile to being a monster, all those sorts of things. And so he's basically quit Twitter over it, which of all the people to quit Twitter, I'm surprised that Joss Whedon has quit Twitter over this. You can tell how bad it's gotten. I feel like with Joss Whedon, he'll be back. It's just a matter of time, But, Ashley, I'm really interested on your take on this in particular. But how did you feel that he was handled that Black Widow was handled in the movie? As being the only female character on the original roster. How do you feel like Black Widow was dealt with in the movie overall?
Give me a second to think.
Anybody else have thoughts on that? Justin, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we did see from Black Widow is we did see her kicking ass, right? She did that a fair bit. I think that the story, the interplay between her and Mark Ruffalo's Eric Bana, obviously, I think was very interesting because we added a new
Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner, thank you.
Eric Bana was the other guy who played Hulk.
Yeah, I think that was a very interesting that moved the character along for both of them in context, because it had to be there to help in some ways. I think to help to isolate the Hulk more and more from the group, which we saw like this movie gave me more and more. And I don't want to go off the Black Widow too far. This movie gave me more the impression of how much of a monster the Hulk is, and how he's really not controllable. And that's kind of okay, now we're at this stage in the battle, just unleash the berserker basically and see what happens, and just hope he's on your side. But I think the relationship that they had, the dynamic, helped to move the exclusion and the isolation of the Hulk character along. I think that was great. I think when you talk about the damsel in distress property of it, the problem is, I don't want to say she's not a damsel in distress. She isn't, and she is. If they had done that to, let's say, the Hulk and put him in that jail, he could have escaped. Tony probably could have escaped, right? I don't know if it's necessarily. I don't know if they needed the damsel in distress component of it to resolve
these. In reality, could the Black Widow have escaped? Really, is kind of the question. Why couldn't she escape? I think that's kind of a fair question.
Well, she was able to communicate out, right? Yep. She's able to get a message to Hawkeye, which I think also helped to strengthen the relationship between Hawkeye and her. Right, more of that, and actually, I think again that's a good portion of helping to build the Hawkeye story due to Black Widow.
Yeah.
So,
I kind of feel too have we really gotten to a point in society where you can't even have a girl character be imprisoned without it suddenly becoming this terrible damsel in distress thing? Yes, I can understand, but is this not even suddenly this is not possible ever, and it's no longer allowed? Because if it even resembles that, then you're going to get lambasted by extreme feminists.
By the internet.
And this is coming from somebody who I feel equal rights, rah, that's awesome. I am totally all about feminism and equal rights and whatever. That is my jam. But let's be real, people. Let's be civil human beings and not totally destroy this man, and be completely ridiculous on Twitter towards somebody because they created this thing that you don't particularly.
And we also realize the reality of we are 4 white guys sitting around talking about feminism, right?
Yeah,
right? If we are pretty underqualified. That's why we're kind of leaning to Ashley hey, what are your thoughts on this? And I don't know, Ashley, have you been able to compose a bit more of a thought on this?
Yeah, so I'm not watching the movie, and I wasn't thinking, oh, she has to have a man, come save her. That wasn't my first thought. Maybe, I'm like, yeah, go women, women rights and everything. But, that's not how I took it. Maybe because I'm used to seeing that in movies that maybe I'm brainwashed or whatever they want to call it. Because I'm used to seeing, the man comes saves the woman, she's trapped. The thing is, like, maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm used to it, so I didn't interpret it as other people did. But I didn't like that the relationship with her and the Hulk was kind of. I felt like it was forced because she is a woman. Maybe that Oh yeah. So I don't like that. Like they always want love stories. It's like you don't have to have. It's the Avengers. I want action. I want to see fighting. I want to see aliens and this and that. I don't want to see two people falling in love. That I didn't want that in this movie. It's just
I
me.
felt like because you're the woman now, you are going to become the love interest. Yeah,
See,
no,
like-
I think that's kind
Yeah,
of
I didn't like that.
criticism.
If I would have picked a character, now this is me. If I would have picked a different character to get locked up, and we are lacking female roles in this movie. Let's be completely honest.
Yeah, where was Pepper, by the way?
Oh, she was running
She was
the
on, like,
She's running the company because
Yeah.
she does all my work for me because she's a woman.
And Natalie Portman's character only gets mentioned.
Right.
And they even kind of call that out, being like, "Oh, testosterone" or whatever.
Yeah. Which take your shirt off, Captain America.
Yeah. So
But if I were to lock up a character, if I were to rewrite this movie, if I were to say who deserved to maybe be locked up in the sense that somebody needed to be locked up, so they had somebody to rescue, I would have locked up. Captain America would have been exciting. I think Quicksilver could have been locked up. The weaker little brother. Well, older by 12 minutes, right?
Right.
He could have been locked up, and I would have felt like he's weak enough to have been locked up, but he also is just really fast. So how's he going to break out?
yeah, I don't know. I feel like
You
in
know-
general,
Sorry. I would just even actually we're on this kind of feminist conversation here a little bit. I don't want to say feminism, but just kind of bring it to the surface and talking. Scarlet Witch plays an incredibly strong character in this movie,
totally.
right?
Yeah.
Oh,
And-
yeah.
and kicks some serious like brings the Avengers down to their knees, just shy of Hawkeye putting the arrow in her head, right? Like, I think it was
By the way,
pretty
I
good
love-
representation.
Yeah,
There's-
I love the scene, by the way, of Hawkeye. Towards the end of the movie, where Scarlet Witch is kind of having like this sort of like mental breakdown, sort of like, oh my gosh, what have we done? I can't believe this is happening. And Hawkeye's sort of thing like, listen, like I don't have time to babysit. The city's flying. I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes any sense, right?
Yeah.
Right. I like
I
that.
just love that whole exchange there.
I liked it too.
But
That was
and then when she kind of comes out and is like, have this sort of moment of deciding that she's going to act. And
that was probably, and I'm going to take a bit of a pause here. I think that was the best scene in the entire
Oh,
movie.
absolutely.
Jeremy Renner. And I also believe, here's the other thing, I think Jeremy Renner's character of Hawkeye had the best lines and the best character in the entire thing, next to James Spader.
oh, totally.
Like
absolutely.
his dialogue and his no one wouldn't miss him, no one, right? Like when he's threatening to shoot Quicksilver, right? Like and they knew when to hit the beats to begin to play it so that you loved Hawkeye. So the potential of him dying, like they led you down that path that he was going to die, and when they
Oh, yeah.
didn't, they pulled it back, right? But they did such a great job of building him.
Yeah, even just like really early on, where Black Widow makes this sort of comment of like, "Are you sure he's going to be okay?" Because pretending to need this guy really brings the team together. Right? Just little comments like that are just great, right? So
I'm surprised nobody's brought up the very first scene in the movie. And maybe we did the language joke, the running language joke.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that earlier, but didn't get a chance to. But
yeah, it was.
The movie starts off with Tony swearing and Cap says language, and then the people poke fun on that the whole show. I liked it.
The
By
whole
the way,
movie.
I guess the one last comment I have. The only other scene that nobody's brought up yet, which is surprising, is the Hulkbuster scene. We haven't talked about that at all, but
Ashley's
I love,
favorite scene in the whole movie.
I love
with
that.
the
Which, by the
Hulk.
way, did you catch the reference to? And this is kind of a weird reference, but they call the Hulkbuster Veronica. The reason they call Hulkbuster Veronica is because the Veronica is the counterpoint to Betty, being Betty, what's her name? Betty Ross, right?
Right.
Bruce Banner's girlfriend, in Archie would be Betty and Veronica, so Veronica being the Hulkbuster, which I thought was kind of a cute reference or whatever.
Veronica, lend me a hand.
Yeah, and
Yeah, lend me a hand.
yeah, that whole scene is great, and there's so much of that scene, by the way, you can tell is informed by the backlash that Man of Steel got specifically.
Oh,
where,
it is Man of Steel all over it.
Yeah, where they're just like, let's get you out of the city, and like that's it's just all about damage mitigation and those sorts of things. I love that scene. It's so good. Although it honestly felt like he beat the Hulk a little bit too easily, almost. Like it felt like that was, yes, he brought him an entire building down on top of him, which had all sorts of 9/11 feeling to it by the end of that scene, especially bringing down that building. But,
Yes.
Which I was like, oh, they're going pretty hard on that visual, on those visuals there. But,
Not to mention, that is a Man of Steel scene, like straight up. Like the fact that they were like, we're gonna destroy all these buildings, and like, how many stories and like how many buildings can I smash through? And like, thank you, Marvel, for acknowledging that there are worse movies that exist.
And I think it's going to be really interesting to see Civil War and Batman versus Superman both come out in the same year next year, and have them both basically have the same theme, really, right? Whereas Batman is going to have this idea of, is Superman good to have? What should we do with Superman? And then have Civil War basically addressing, what are we going to do with superheroes? Look at all the damage they've done. I guarantee you the Hulkbuster scene in particular is going to have a lot of ramifications on, and the final battle with the city and in Sokovia.
Well, I think they even kind of addressed it a little bit in the movie, because after he was flying the Hulk out, Tony says, please send in the Stark recovery team or Stark reconstruction team, like basically humanitarian efforts going in and resolving that or trying to fix it, right? Throwing some money at the issue. I think that scene, obviously cinematically, graphically, pretty powerful scene, pretty incredible. Probably one of the keystone moments in the entire movie, obviously. But again, it goes back to just highlighting the destructive nature. Now, yes, he was under mind control of the Hulk, but I was even watching the first Avengers last week when I was in Boston, and he's like, don't, why do we have this big glass case? Oh, just in case you get mad, right? Like, you have the Hulk in a Harrier jet. Like, that seems like a horrible idea. And yeah, he even says it, but even just like the uncontrollable nature when he becomes the Hulk of the destruction he makes, and it helped in all of these cases when he did become the Hulk to show that divide more and more, how he can't control it, and it puts him in a situation. I'm very interested. As he was in the plane escaping near the end, after throwing Ultron out, which was great. He's in the plane. Black Widow's talking to him. He turns off the thing, and he kind of has this longing look up. And I thought they were going to turn this into he just kind of takes the jet into space or something, right? I think
what the ending that we were all expecting.
Yeah, exactly. That we were definitely all expecting. I think that it'll be very interesting to see how they approach the Hulk in the next movies, and how they bring him back into the fold.
The sun's getting pretty low, big guy.
Yeah, it definitely feels like, well, on one hand, one thing that has also kind of come out is that they were originally thinking of having the Hulk become Grey Hulk in this movie. And Grey Hulk in the comic books is basically like a normal Bruce Banner inside a Hulk body. Where it's the same sort of really reserved, exactly that, Bruce Banner inside the Hulk's body, and he's gray instead of green, which would be really cool and kind of neat to see, where he's a lot more you know, himself, and he's gained more control over it. But at the same time, you can imagine if Bruce Banner was trying to fight people, even if he did have that body, he would kind of suck, right? He'd be a lot different person as well. So that could be cool. I mean, the talk of potentially doing a Planet Hulk movie has come up multiple times. The potential of him showing up in Guardians of the Galaxy, although he never really did go to space, so I don't think he's going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy. But yeah, it's
not unless they want to give us some BS like he actually flew that thing into space. Like,
which if they do that, that's super lame. Unless they somehow Earth or something. But let's talk just for a minute, just to kind of wrap up here, how the movie ends with the new Avengers. With they show everybody kind of goes their own separate ways. Tony's going and living the good life, and Thor's going back to Asgard and gonna find out that his brother is really his dad and whatever, right? That whole business there, where Loki isn't. They don't talk about it in the movie, but obviously Loki is impersonating Odin at the end of the most recent Thor movie, so he's gonna figure that stuff out. But Captain America and Black Widow are left with basically the Avengers are now the new Shield. Nick Fury is at the Avengers base. Maria Hill's going to be at the Avengers base. Basically, the Avengers, I'm guessing, have their own helicarrier now, because that's how Nick Fury rolls. He just decides that
he just brings helicarriers.
Yeah,
I mean, they come in Lego form now, so they're readily available.
But the main team now is Captain America, Black Widow,
Falcon,
War Machine, Falcon, Vision, and Scarlet Witch. How do we feel about that as the Avengers moving into Phase 3? What do you think, Dave? How are you feeling about that team?
I like it. I do, but I don't know. The Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, the four are now A-level characters. Okay? As much as Falcon and War Machine and these other characters are in these movies, they are still C-level characters. And do they hold the Avengers? When I get Avengers 4, meaning after Infinity War Part 1 and 2, do I care about a movie about Falcon, Scarlet Witch, and War Machine?
But I guess the question I would say, Dave, is that like when Marvel kicked this off 8-9 years ago with Iron Man, did any of us really care enough about Iron Man to be like, oh yeah, I'll watch a lot of these going forward?
But here's the kicker: there is no War Machine movie coming.
Yeah, but there's also no other Hulk movie coming.
Well, the Hulk movie is the thing that they can't make for whatever reason due to licensing. They said this is their Hulk movie, which once again got overshadowed with too many characters, which is why Joss is so upset.
But why is there no reason that we can't see in Avengers 3 or 4 Captain America dies and Falcon picks up the shield?
I think if they do it right, it can be great.
Yeah.
I really like the guy who plays War Machine.
Oh, Cheadle.
Yeah.
Cheadle.
I think he has potential to be a bigger character than he does.
Yeah.
Than he gets.
He was the butt of about 5 jokes, and that was about it in this movie.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the interesting part is they had to do this, right? Either they had to do this, like introduce the new Avengers team, or the series has to die. Because all like Chris Evans has been very vocal that he wants to get out of Captain America. He wants to go direct. Contractually, there's a whole big thing, like if they have more than 3 movies of the same character on the same series, so example, Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, once you go for a 4th show, you have to renegotiate a contract because you're being typecasted and pigeonholed, right? Same thing with the Avengers series, right? So they needed to introduce, they're going to get rid of they're going to get rid of Iron Man sooner than not.
Yeah.
Right? Like whether we like it or not. So they have to introduce these characters. Again, this movie is a great trailer and a great bridge device launching platform for the MCU's 3rd wave. That's what this is.
For sure, it's the Empire Strikes Back of it's interesting that we're looking at a trilogy of movie phases, right? That's almost what they're doing, and so phase 3 is going to be the payoff for literally almost, by the time it gets here, 10 years of movies. Avengers Infinity War is going to be the payoff for all of that, supposedly. And you thought it's bad when you go and see the final movie of a trilogy that you were really looking forward to. That, like, Infinity War is going to have to be so amazing that it, like, I don't even know how they're going to do it. I have a feeling they're gonna Matrix Revolutions this business, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Well, I mean, the harsh reality is at some point in the next little bit, and I hate to tell everyone, Marvel's going to stumble.
I feel like this was their first stumble.
I don't think this was as big of a stumble. $180 million, that isn't a stumble. That's a stumble from the geek cred moment, but that's not a stumble from the box office, which is what they're counting.
But I feel like the geek, the diehard fans are going to be the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. Of, like, if the diehard fans are the ones that you're pissing off now, then, however far down the line, the whole, and maybe this is kind of my final thought on it, is what do you really come to these movies for? Are you coming to these movies for the action and to see these fun characters interact with each other? If so, awesome. But at some point, it's going to have to, if you're going for anything more than that, it's going to be a little bit more of a disappointment for you. And honestly, this movie felt like, more than any other movie in the MCU so far, this movie felt like one that was marketed and aimed and crafted towards the younger audience than it usually has been. It's not at all ages, as much as it is aiming towards that youth age.
We got Daredevil. We don't need an adult Avengers movie. I know. The sarcasm.
Have to have this amazing, great thing, right? I hear what you're saying. No, for sure.
Is it, Ashley? For somebody who's, following this as just like a casual fan, not as obsessed as us. Are you ready for another Avengers movie, or after this, how do you feel? Like, will the hype still be there for you for the next Avengers?
For me, probably not. I really don't as much as I know, it's like basically from what you tell me and from what I can kind of remember from like my siblings. Like I remember the Hulk from when I was a kid, and I kind of remember some of the other characters, but like the new people, I don't really like the War. Well, I don't know. I saw him in the Iron Man movies, and he was okay. He had some funny things to say, and he's okay. But I don't really have like some love, or I don't really have like a connection with the new characters. So I'm kind of like, if I know, okay, in a year from now there's going to be an Avengers movie with those 5 people, I probably won't be like, oh yeah, let's go see it. It's just, I don't know enough about the characters. I don't have like anything attached to them that makes me want to go and see them. Like, I remember as a kid, I used to watch this Hulk show, and I still to this day can't find it, but I remember there was a Hulk show I watched as a kid, and I'm obsessed with the Hulk, and I don't know why. It's just a show I remember watching as a kid. And Iron Man, that was the first, I think that was the first Marvel movie that I actually saw. And it's just like, oh, cool, a guy in a suit, awesome, he flies around, It's just, I really liked him, and I just came to love these characters that we have now. And then they're going, oh, guess what? All these guys are gone now. Now here's a new set of characters. That's how I feel that they did it. It's like, oh, yeah, all these people, they don't want to do it anymore. Bye-bye. I just, personally, I don't like it.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot to live up to.
They're gonna push a major piece of the audience away if they bring these characters in. And if they stumble like this and they continue to stumble to tend to only their niche audience, like, as much as I love this movie with my obsession with the MCU, okay, but I don't think they fed the other audience. It made the money because the hype was still there from the first movie, and the audiences Loved the first Avengers movie, but I don't think I think it treated you like a average person. The other one did, and this one brings you to a whole nother level of like comic books and other stuff that you need to understand. And I know the next Avengers will make money. I know Infinity War Part 2 will make tons of money. It's that wave after that I'm concerned about at this point.
Which, you know, I mean, being worried about a movie phase that's coming out
In 2020,
I think is probably okay. They've got a lot to work.
I mean, I'm still worried about Star Wars. Maybe I'm the only one who's still worried about Star Wars because that trailer is exciting everybody.
Yeah. Well, right on. Does anybody have anything else to add before I start playing our music and get us out of here? This has been a long discussion. Nobody?
Nope.
Okay, I'm gonna. Cool. Well, hey. Where's our music? Oh, there we go. That's better. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. And if you have enjoyed this, don't worry because we're gonna be back tomorrow night, guys. Amazing.
With Nintendo Dads, the greatest Nintendo podcast for everybody.
Oh, stop it. Stop you. No, we will be back tomorrow night with a regularly scheduled Nintendo Dads podcast. You can find us on the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can check us out at Nintendo Dads. VGTribune.com, twitch.tv/Nintendo Dads. You can call in and leave us a voicemail, 929-25-NDADS. And big thanks to Carter Johnson for our amazing artwork. And we will see you guys all next week or tomorrow or whenever.
Hey, before we head out, speaking of amazing podcasts, where can people check out the Character Crunch?
Of course.
Character Crunch at dayspace.com, DACESPACE, as well as the show's in iTunes. Search for it in the podcatcher, Character Crunch.
The Character Crunch is one of our favorite podcasts that we listen to as well, and we love having them on. Great, Dave. Thank you for coming on. Ashley, thank you for joining us as well. Thank you for being the first woman in the Nintendo Dads environment. Thank you.
No, thank you, and I promise next time I'll be more informed.
Oh, no, it's okay. I mean, come back anytime. We'd love to have you guys back all the time.
Thanks.
Right on. Cool. Thanks again, everybody, and we will see you later.
Bye-bye. I like the music for like when I get up in the morning.
I know, right?
New alarm.
Yeah. Like today is going to be awesome.